Hello, YouTube land. Welcome back to another episode with the Comic Book Ninja. Today I want to talk about an artist that died way too young. His name is Dave Stevens. He's better known as the creator of The Rocketeer. And he modeled, I believe he modeled the main character, Cliff Secord, on himself. And he modeled his girlfriend Betty on model Betty Page. And what you see here is a painting that he did for Glamour International, Betty Page. And yeah, he based the model Betty Page on the Rocketeer's girlfriend. And he helped contribute to the revival in interest in Betty Page in the late 70s, early 1980s. And when he discovered that Betty was living not too far from him in Southern California, he became friends with her and provided assistance and help to arrange financial compensation from publishers for use of her image. And since then, Betty Page became a lot more famous than she was when she was a pinup model in the 1950s. They're still doing Betty Page comics today, like this one. Oop. And this one, which is currently being published by Dynamite Comics. But fortunately, Dave Stevens passed away in way too young at the age of 52 of hairy cell leukemia in 2008. And ironically, the real Betty Page passed away a few months afterwards, also in 2008. But I want to give recognition to the great artist that he is. He didn't do a lot of comics work, but when he did, I always went after it. And like I said, this piece he did is a Betty Page, and it's not for a comic, but it's for a magazine, an adult magazine called Glamour International, and it's a Betty Page. I want to showcase some of his comics. This is the Rocketeer, first appearance of Rocketeer, which is this cover is actually the back cover to Star Slayer #2, and this is the first appearance of the Rocketeer. The second appearance for the Rocketeer, this is Star Slayer #3. This is actually the back cover to Star Slayer #3. Then the story continues in Pacific Presents #1 from Pacific Comics. #2. He was a big influence on the artists today like Adam Hughes. And when you look at his art, you can see why. This is Rocketeer Special Edition #1 from Eclipse Comics. Good thing about the Rocketeer is that the character is not owned by any one company. It was owned by Dave Stevens, who would go on to later actually produce the Rocketeer movie for Walt Disney Studios in the early 90s. So that's why you'll see him go to different publishers, because he owned it, not the publishers. This is Rocketeer Adventure Magazine #1 from Comico Comics. It's the first issue of a new storyline for the Rocketeer. This is Rocketeer Adventure Magazine #2. And the final conclusion of the story, Rocketeer Adventure Magazine #3. This issue would not see publication until several years after #2 came out, and this one was published by Dark Horse Comics. Here's some cover art of the Rocketeer by Dave Stevens. This is for Amazing Heroes Preview Special, 1988. Covered by Dave Stevens. And here is the Rocketeer official movie adaptation of the Walt Disney picture. Unfortunately, he didn't do the art inside. The art inside was done by Russ Heath, a really good artist in his own right. But this cover was done by Dave Stevens, which is great. Great flag cover. Next we have a collected graphic novel edition that reprints his early appearances. This is a painted cover of the first storyline for the Rocketeer. The introduction by Harlan Ellison. Next we have The Rocketeer, Cliff's New York adventure. This collects his second adventure that was previously been published. Cover by Dave Stevens, interior by Dave Stevens. We have some more cover artwork of The Rocketeer, also by Dave Stevens. This is for Back Issue Magazine #47. And like I said, he was partially responsible for bringing Betty Page back into the public eye. And this is for a small magazine cover that he did called Movie Star News. Art by Dave Stevens. And I was very fortunate to meet him many years ago at a convention, and I had him sign it right there. He also did a cover for Betty Page Comics #1 from Dark Horse Comics. Really nice cover. He did Betty Page, Queen of the Nile #1. Cover by Dave Stevens, interior art by Jim Silkey. And this is #2. And here we have #3. A doppelganger cover. My favorite. He didn't do a lot of interior artwork, but he did do a lot of covers, and it's another fantastic example of his art. Great pinup style, very cute girls. It's Alien Worlds #2 from Pacific Comics. Alien Worlds #4, also from Pacific. Airboy #5 from Eclipse Comics, featuring Valkyrie. Great cover. We have Mr. Monster #2 from Eclipse Comics. like how he drew the little rascals at the bottom there. Really nice. Okay. And we have True Love, #1, covered by Dave Stevens from Eclipse Comics. Chevron Noir #1 from Dark Horse Comics. Kind of love those legs. Chevron Noir #7. Here we have Last of the Viking Heroes #5. Now the art is by Jack Kirby, but Dave Stevens inked it. It's a big Jack Kirby fan. Then we have Twisted Tales. I think this is a special. Covered by Dave Stevens. And we have Planet Comics #1, one of my favorites covers. And this one also happens to be signed by Dave Stevens. Really nice guy. He died too young, at age 52. There's another copy, but this is a double cover. Pretty awesome. Double cover. Finally, we have Vanguard Illustrated #2, cover by Dave Stevens. And there you have it. This is part 1 of a 2-part series. I'll be showcasing more comics from Dave Stevens. Hope you enjoy it. This is the Comic Book Ninja signing off.